Let's go to those school protests, predominantly in Melbourne, but they occurred in other centres around Australia. Joining me now to discuss this, the President of the Australian Jewish Association, Dr. David Adler. David, just quickly, we'll get into some other really big issues, but on this one today, I played some vision of those children. Sad to see them there, shocking that parents allowed it, but also the level of ignorance I thought was alarming. What's been the reaction of the Jewish community today?
Well, Peter, we have a number of concerns. Firstly, as Australians, we want our students actually learning things that they need to learn. As everyone knows, Australian educational standards are going down and they're not supposed to be trained as political activists. The second point is that obviously we're very concerned that this is anti-Israel indoctrination at school level. And if people haven't seen it, it'll be interesting to test the reaction of some of the Islamic chants that the students were following, not just Allahu Akbar, but also the words that are used to convert people to Islam were repeated by the students in Melbourne. I'm not suggesting that the conversion process was completed because you have to say it 3 times with intent, but they're actually learning the words to convert to Islam today on the streets of Melbourne. It's extraordinary.
Yeah, I'm looking at the short skirts and the uncovered heads of those women there, those young women, which, as you and I will know, would be allowed in Israel, but not across the border. Can I get a reaction from you from the confirmation today from the Home Affairs Department, backed in, of course, by Penny Wong yesterday? 860 visas have been approved for Palestinians between October 7 and November 20. Both the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister talk about security checks. Well, I had a good look at the website. These are subclass 600 visas. There is no mandatory security checks. You apply online. Indeed, someone else can even apply for you. And if paperwork is required, if it's required, it comes via the Palestinian authorities. Now, I'll talk a bit more about this with my next guest after the break, but even if Hamas isn't hiding terrorists potentially in this cohort, you've got to be worried whether their views are in step with mainstream Australia.
Spot on. It would be hard to find a place anywhere on the planet where the ideology, the culture is more anti-Western. Unfortunately, there have been 2 generations now which have been brainwashed with hatred of the West and also anti-Semitism. But apart from the paperwork to which you refer, there are a number of proofs that the promises that have come out of the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister are impossible to deliver. This is not moderate risk, this is not high risk. Be clear, this is extreme risk. Now, we know that something like 75% support for the actual terrorism undertaken by Hamas. But here's 2 proofs at how difficult it is. One is none of the nearby Arab Muslim countries are offering refugee programs. Now, maybe they know a little bit more than the bureaucrats in Canberra. And secondly, Israel has issued a number of work permits, some thousands of work permits to people in Gaza to come and work in southern Israel. And Israel does a lot of security screening, as you would expect. And even with the level of security screening done by Israel, come October 7, we find out that hundreds were actually feeding detailed information to Hamas, and many of them joined in the terrorism rampage. So you have to have an assumption that somehow the bureaucrats in Canberra are going to be way more effective than the security apparatus, even in Israel, in screening these people. It beggars belief. You've got to think that maybe 20%, 30%, 50%, who knows, will have views that are totally incompatible with integrating into Australian society and possibly terrorism supporters.
And I have to say, David Adler, I have sat on the other side in government and had some of those serious briefings, and you are 200% right. Dr. David Adler, thank you for your time.